We'll call the April 15th, 2025 Lee County Board of Supervisors meeting order. First order of business, got public hearing on the rezoning request. Lee County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the General District Courtroom, Lee County Courthouse located in Jonesville, Virginia, to solicit input on the rezoning request. St. Charles Health Council Incorporated has requested to rezone plus or minus 5 acres of property from A1 Agricultural District to B2 General Business District to allow a medical clinic. Property is located south of the Kaler community. Property is located 1 mile west of LMU Veterinarian School campus, south of Wilderness Road on Dr. Hurst Road intersection.
When the planning commission met about this, the only real concern was if this would be considered spot zoning. Some of the debate and what we've looked into with some of the case laws that essentially spot zoning is a determination of if you're favoring one property owner over the overall zoning plan. So the planning commission felt as though for this being a clinic for the community, that was not a concern, that this was for the overall good for the entire area, not just the property owner. They voted unanimously to recommend approval. With all rezoning requests, we are required to send certified letters to all adjoining parcel property owners. And the only comment we got back from anyone, we had one property owner that called in and just stated that he was in favor of the rezoning request and looked forward to having them as a neighbor.
Thank you.
So any idea when they're gonna get started on building that project?
Thompson and Litton's handling the plans. I know they sent out emails today to Joseph Mullins of VDOT, to myself, DEQ. They're getting all their permits in order, all their stormwater, ENS. So they're moving forward with hopefully getting everything soon.
Okay.
Anyone else here to speak on behalf of?
I'm Malcolm Drew with St. Charles Health Council. I'm happy to answer any questions. And to answer your question,
So I was gonna say, when you
I
gonna
think
get
it's
started?
in process with VDOT now, so we're doing kind of what you talked about, jumping through all the hoops. But we've got it before stormwater, we've got it before VDOT now. So we're looking at probably 12 months before we can occupy it,
Right.
maybe a little bit more. If the wind don't blow us away.
Any dental service coming out of that anywhere down
Dental,
there? Yeah.
and we looked at dental, but every time I drive by there, that cemetery gets larger. So we barely were able to fit our medical clinic in there, and so we looked at a second story, couldn't make it work, so right now there's not plans for dental.
Okay.
You know, when we first looked at that parcel, we thought, that's great, that's a ton of space, but time you get your set-offs from the utility lines and the highway and the cemetery, it got pretty small pretty quick.
Right.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special use permit request. Lee County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, 6 p.m. in the General District Courtroom, Lee County Courthouse, located in Jonesville, Virginia, to solicit input on the special use permit. Rock Bottom Horse Camp has applied for a special use permit to allow an event venue in A1 Agricultural District property. It's located in Ewing Community, consists of plus or minus 19.65 acres of land from Wilderness Road, 0.6 miles on Sand Cave Road at 375 Cherokee Hills Lane. Tax parcel number 63A-1-BKA3 and 4.
This property already has a special use permit in place for an RV park. They operate that with their horse camp. What he's asking for is the event venue special use, so that way they can have outdoor weddings. She can speak to his plans, but as of right now, he said he didn't plan on building any structures. It was just to be able to host the events there, have other things such as music events, gatherings there, but Again, the planning commission recommended unanimously to recommend approval of this special use permit.
Anyone here to speak on?
My name is John Mealy. My wife and I run the campground there. As he stated, we're looking just to kind of expand.
Could you step up to the mic, please?
We're looking to expand what we have there as far as services to our guests. We've had some guests ask about having weddings there, being it's a horse campground. They want to have horse-centric weddings. We're also looking at doing like bluegrass and old-time music there. Not planning on charging for that anymore, but for the community. But we want to make sure that we went through all the process to have the event venue so that we can, you know, we're good for it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody else here to speak on behalf of this? No one, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved, and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Special use permit request. Lee County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, 6 p.m. in the District Court Room, Lee County Courthouse, located in Jonesville, Virginia, to solicit input on special use permit request. Michael Schrock has applied for special use permit to allow woodworking shop dwelling in a A1 agricultural district. Property is located at the intersection of Flatwoods Road and Martin Wolf Road and consists of plus or minus 7.538 acres of land. Tax parcel number 67-A-115.
Mr. Schrock just recently purchased this property. There's an existing dwelling there. He has obtained his demolition permit to tear that house down and remove it from the property. He's wanting to build the dwelling, which would be an allowed use, but he's also wanting to attach the woodworking shop and have both mixed-use occupancy under one roof. The woodworking shop is really what requires the special use permit. Again, planning commission discussed it very briefly. No real concerns or comments, recommended unanimously to approve the special use permit. He's looking at building things such as gazebos, just different woodworking things that he's looking to build out of the shop there attached to the home.
You here to speak on behalf of this?
I'm Michael Schrock. And
Could you step up to the mic, please?
yes, I'd just like to build gazebos like Clint said. I would, I'm getting married in May and I would like to have a job to support my family. Try to answer any questions.
Anybody else here to speak on this?
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Department report. Treasurer report. Public expression. Anyone here for public expression? Right. Reports, recommendations of the board. Mr. Kidd, please.
Do we need to talk about the MOU? I think we have to do that publicly at this point. Am I right or wrong? Does it need to be on the agenda added to it?
We can do that through your recommendation.
I recommend we talk about it. We're gonna have to, because it's public document at this point. If you wanna take the lead there, you all attended the meeting. And
Well, specifically, and there are some school board members here that can answer any questions.
Sure.
Basically, we went to that meeting, had I did a brief recap on where the budget was and where we were with some other things, and we discussed the MOU. actually, that board questioned whether or not it was even a necessary thing to do, that if that committee could get back together, hash through the items that were the discretionary items, work through those things, then I think they were willing, and Mr. Dean's here, he can speak to that, they were willing to go on those recommendations. So they did supply us, I sent everybody a copy of that MOU in your email. Once they give it back to us, I've got a copy of it here, but I think the big thing is, and what I would like to see, and I think what the school board would like to see is just everybody will work together to get something ironed out, where I'm sure, you know, I don't know if anybody will be completely happy with what either side does, which is generally a pretty good compromise, so.
So do you want to touch on the funding aspect of the schools issue at all yet, or you want to wait till you get numbers?
Well, what the recommendation was, and I think we were gonna try to get together, just us to run through some things. There's a lot of things in that budget that really, I guess unless you're in the school system, you really don't know what those programs are for.
Right.
And we were talking about going through some definitions. I think you actually put maybe something together, Mr. Dean.
Currently working on that would define, because I mean, like, if you look at the budget and it says gifted education, it's hard to know exactly what that means, so we're working on a book that would tell you what that means and what those fundings can be used for, and having a book that would just break down each category with some easy terminology, and then look at it too, whether it's a required local effort or required local match. And then there's some programs that the state provides that the locality doesn't have to provide anything. So we were going to look at dividing all that up and having a document that Ms. Belcher and I have been working on. Hope to have it completed in a day or two that we can send to Mr. Wright and he can share with all of you all. That might give a little more explanation. So when we sit down, everybody will kind of know what those terms are. So, I mean, anything else that we can do to help, we're more than willing.
So as of right now, it's 7.9 million in local match money.
For all of the funding, yes.
7.9.
7.87.
Okay, close to it. And how much is that over last year?
We did, what, 6.9 last year, so it's another million.
About $1 million. Mr. Kibble, what we included was all of the categories. You know, y'all didn't fund some last year. We included those, and those were included in the 7.9 or 7.87 million.
I think the key is where we were trying to get to is you know, if there's a program there, and you know, just to make sure that the board fully knows what that is and how it's going to be used in the school system and all of that to figure it out. And we did discuss it's a balancing act between what we need to do for the school system and EMS and the jail system and you know all of the other agencies that have to be funded through this budget. So and I think they understand you know where we're at.
And you all were gracious enough to come to our meeting, so we just wanted to offer that and come to yours and see if we can answer any questions. Or vote on anything if you want to, Roger.
Sure, go ahead.
Just, I want to, April 30th, we're going to do a bridge naming ceremony, and for Dr. Ewan was a longtime doctor here in Jonesville. He traveled with the football team in Jonesville, and we're doing it then so we can get time to get it in the paper and advertise. So everybody wants to can come and attend. It's to be 10 o'clock. So
I don't have anything. Reports and recommendations of county attorney. Reports and recommendations of the county administrator.
Just to give you another quick schedule update, we tentatively scheduled the sale of the property, the old ag building and the other house that's across there. That is scheduled for May the 17th, tentatively today. There's also, I had a offer, the board gave me permission to talk to some businesses about the sign that's over here in the parking lot. And I didn't get a lot of interest from it, but State Farm actually was interested in using that as advertisement for them. And the rehabilitation of that sign, everything is going to be huge, that they're willing to take care of all of that. And wanted to know if they could rent that for $600 a year. But now they're going to have a lot of money in that by the time they rehabilitate that sign that's there. So I didn't know if you wanted to try to do that or not. I think it's a good idea. It'll be he's going to light it and everything.
What sign is this now?
State Farm.
The sign in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking we was on the school property itself, but.
No,
Okay.
this is just for that sign that's empty there across the road there in the parking lot.
They got to be for it.
That motion.
It's a motion.
Second.
Motion and second to lease the sign to State Farm. All in favor?
Right.
All opposed?
Just another report. We had a meeting on the AT&T repeater pods that are up in Robbins Chapel, Keoki. They're in the process, have the equipment on hand to do the upgrades to those systems, which will make them a little stronger. When you do those signals, it doesn't reach out a whole lot further, but it does do the penetration into houses, that sort of thing. It's a real worthwhile upgrade. That is all scheduled to be done this summer. The VDOT 6-year plan, current roads that are on the 6-year plan are still in the program. I asked VDOT to take a look at a road, Cooney Hollow, and then Route 839 over on Wallens Creek. We actually had some citizens that asked about those, so I asked them to take a look at those. If you have any roads that you would like to have them to take a look at, I need them as quickly as I can get them. There's going to have 6-year plan meetings here in a few weeks, and we need to do that. But most everything that we had is a continuation of things that has been done the way VDOT does the roads in section. The one thing that they did ask me to remind you of is if you have a road that you would like to put in there, be real mindful of where that road lays and how it lays, because they get a limited number of dollars to put into the 6-year plan every year. So if the road is in a area where it's going to require a lot of grade work and prep, and of course they got to get to the 40-foot right of way, for drainage and all that, that one small section of road might be a lot more than what another section of road is that they could get done with the funds that they had, that would put that project on hold, waiting for the funds to accumulate enough to where they could get that piece done. Does that make sense? Because if they get like $100,000, but it won't do that section, then they'll wait a year and add that money together with the next appropriation to do that, and it'll prolong the plan. But I think those 2 roads that we added this year are good roads to try to get in that system. The one's in Cooney Hall and the other one's up Wallens Creek. He mentioned the bridge naming. I had the 911 coordinator, Billy K. Coleman, asked her to fill out some grant information for some 911 and some actually GIS upgrades for the system that it looks like VDM is going to approve those. There's 2 grants, one for $8,000 and one for $4,000, and I need approval to accept those funds if they become available.
Are they an 80-20 grant? What is it, full matching or?
No, there's no match.
No match to it?
No.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed?
And that's all I had. I would like to go back to that. Do we want to try to schedule a meeting with that committee, or would you like for me and Mr. Dean and Ms. Belcher to get together and try to?
Yeah, I've talked to him several times, told him I can meet at any point he wants to. Mr. Williams is on the board as well. I'm I'm free just about any evening.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Is that acceptable? Just to try to get that moved. The quicker we can get that worked out, the better off we'll all be, right? So, I'll get you a couple of dates, Mr. Dean, you get me a couple of dates, we'll get that together and get this work through. Thank you. So, that's all I have.
Approval of minutes, March 11th, public hearing, March 18th, regular meeting, March 26th, special call meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The administrator report, payroll warrants have been issued.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of disbursement. Delegation. Ms. Burchett, the registrar's office. Fiscal year 26. Office meeting.
Okay, I guess you know we're here begging for money. In order to fully staff the early voting precinct, we will need 3 part-time positions. And we need 1 person to work 3 days a week in the registrar's office, and also will be 1 person that works the 45 days of early voting. And then we need 2 more people to work the 45 days in the early voting precinct. And the electoral board has approved these positions. So to get us through June, I need the office worker 3 days a week, and they will work the 45 days. I just said that. So we're having an election on June the 17th. So we've got that 45 days. That is a requirement now. We have to do it. We have the primary coming up, and primaries don't turn out a lot of votes. And governors are not on this ballot, so that will mean less people will probably come out. So in the primary, I can get by with 2 extra people. The one that's working 3 days in the office, and 1 more to work the 45 days. And then it's going to be so slow, I know that Teresa and I can be the 3rd person to step in the room when they're voting. But now, just because I can get by in this primary doesn't mean I can get by in November without all 3 of those positions. And then July 1 through December the 31st, I will need a part-time office worker and 2 people to do the early votes for 45 days. And you want the figures? Okay, to go through to June, I have June 30th, I have a total of 10,425 people. Dollars. And then in July, I have 8,936 for the early vote. And then also the person that's going to work 3 days a week, if you all approve it. And I don't have that one total.
Possible. Go ahead.
Did you put the stuff for the next fiscal year, did you put that in your budget request?
Yes, I think so. But now this is going to be through, well, we call it 1 election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So like from January the 2nd to December the 31st. We've had 3 elections in this cycle. Normally, we only have 2. And when I turned my budget in the last time, not this time, but the time before, I requested $15,000, and then it was cut to 6. So we just can't work with that anymore. And the code says that we have to staff it with 3 people. You all got anything?
Lawyer House, Secretary Electoral Board. It's warranted, the help, we've got to have it, state mandated, regulations and everything, and we'll do what we can. We just ask you to take that into consideration from the board.
And I was told that the reason my budget was cut in that category was because I didn't use it all. Well, I thought I was being a good steward of your money, air money, by not using it all. If I don't need it, I won't use it. So that's all I have.
Who sets their pay scale and what is the pay scale and what is these people's?
Workers would just be paid minimum wage.
And any qualification?
Any qualification? Well, we'll train them as they come in on what they need to do. Just doing the early vote in the office, that's just a matter of checking them in, giving them a ballot, and make sure it goes into the machine, they don't carry it out. So, but then the person that's going to be working 3 days a week, we don't know yet, we'll be training for the assistant registrar position, because I'm going to retire in December, and hopefully Teresa will move up, and then she will also be a full-time assistant.
So what would be the qualifications for that person?
Well, I think I brought that, but I'm sure you don't want me to read it all. I can just job qualification. Now that's for the registrar, and the assistant must be able to take over in case for some reason the registrar was not available, or, we have to be sick, dying before we get to come in.
So does the electoral board hire these people?
No, I do.
So you hire these people?
Yes. The electoral board approves the position.
So how many's on the electoral board? 5?
3.
3.
They're here.
What's the attendance been like the last few meetings?
What's what?
The electoral board meetings?
The attendance?
Yeah. I hear that they've not been coming.
They've been coming.
That was probably my fault. I assumed that there was 5 members of that board. That was an assumption.
Okay.
And so, because these, most of them are 5, but there was the 3, and they're always there. Those 3 are always there.
We have
So-
a meeting tomorrow at 3.
3 has been coming.
Yes.
No, good. So I'd like to try to answer your question about the budget cut that you had at the beginning of last year. When I got here, along with 4 other people up here, just over $3 million in the hole, and if we don't have to have that, we can pull it back.
I understand.
It was just that simple. It wasn't nothing personal or anything like that. But this year, I think we're looking at $5 million in the hole. And then we have to look at all that as well, and how are we going to pay for extra employees? That's the question I have. Obviously, you raise taxes to pay for everything. That's what we do.
What was that?
We raise taxes to pay for things.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's where we're at this year. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are.
That's where we're at right now this year.
I think what her deal is, though, is all those people are required by code, right?
Here we go, I can tell you the number.
Yeah,
Employment
90% of what we do is required by code. The state makes us
And it
obviously.
says not less than 3 competent citizens shall be appointed at each precinct. That's simply a primary, that's not a huge election.
Right.
Plus y'all got the county next year, so
So,
we have to do this.
all the,
continuous.
they're part-time employees, no benefits, correct?
Yes.
Part-time, no benefits. Is it like a contract labor deal, or how does it work?
No, they would be
They're paid by the
employed.
county.
So from now on, they're gonna, it's gonna be an employee part-time.
And now this is going to be right on unless the Senate or Congress or somebody changes this law. 45 days is required by law, we have to do it.
I believe we were in a county election yet for another.
Not this year, next
Not
year.
this November, but the next November. This
But we're
November,
gonna need these.
right on and on.
We're
Sure.
gonna-
You're paid.
So you're basically telling me this is like required local effort for schools. You're made to do that by the state. That's what you're saying in state code.
It's in the election code,
Okay.
24.2 election code of Virginia.
And I will say Patsy sent that to me last week and asked me to review it as well, just to verify it
Right.
is.
Can I say something, you guys? My name is Gerald Hills. I'm the chairman of the electoral board. Now, what Patsy is trying to tell you is that if it's somebody out there in a precinct and they've worked these elections and they know how the books work, we will try to hire one of those people to bring over here for that 45 days. Somebody with experience. Because it's not that you just go out here on the street, pick some lady or gentleman up and say, you know, we'll put you to work for 45 days. And that person's got to be able to be there. And another thing, they've got to be able to, you know, work within the code of an election. So it's very important. So that's what she's trying to tell you. And then this person that's working the 3 days, that person would be in there in the office just 3 days a week. And if that person, you know, don't show up for work and whatnot, we're going to change that person. Is there any question, try to clarify that? I mean, I just was sitting there listening and I didn't think you all, you know, was kind of apprehending what she was saying. So.
Right. Not for me.
If I may, one more, but you said to get you through this fiscal year, you needed $10,425, right? I wrote that down, but I was writing it real quick, I just wanted to make sure.
That's right, because Teresa or I-1 will work as that third person.
And part of probably what got this kind of moving was they made it over budget. And so then I made the phone call, hey, we're over budget, and I watched those numbers pretty heavy considering the situation that it is. So in order to fix the problem for them, if we need to do that, we would need to vote and make an appropriation to their labor for $10,425 to get them through this year. If not, then they're just over budget.
To get us through June.
Yeah, for the fiscal year we're in.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense? Does that say that right?
So that figure 10 something is just to the end of this fiscal year.
Yes.
What will it be for the rest of that?
For the rest of the year.
Well, we can talk about that in the budget, because that's gonna come up.
Okay.
When we start having budget sessions. This is just, the issue they've got right now is you know, they turned in expenses that was above and beyond what the budget said, so I questioned it.
We don't normally have 3 elections in our election cycle. It's usually 2. So when we have to have this one, then we just don't have the money for it, so.
And then whenever we had sent the budget over, it was for 15,000. And then that got cut back to 6. That's what did it.
But we was 3 million in the hole.
That's right, I understand. Even if you're in the hole, you got to crawl out. And then another thing
Sometimes,
is.
we cut 11 line items out of that budget,
Yeah, I
totally
know,
cut them
I
all
know.
out.
I know
Even a
exactly what it is.
$15,000 budget, and we cut you to 6, you say?
It was 15,000,
Yeah.
that's what the request was.
So,
And then it was cut to 6.
so if we add this 10,000 to that, we're still going $1,000 over budget,
Right.
what you requested.
Well, but I mean, you got to have an election.
Do we need to look at each precinct, how many people we got at each precinct? Because it appears to me, I know in my district, that some of the precincts, I think they're overstaffed.
Well, I tell you what happens. A lot of times, we got a precinct and they're understaffed on the day of election. And we have to take somebody out of one precinct and take them to another. I've carried them over from Pennington Gap to Woodway. Whenever you only got 2 people over there, you may have 5 over at Pennington Gap.
We normally have 5 at each precinct, but during this primary, the electoral board's only going to have 3 at each precinct. So that there is trying to cut and save some money.
I guess what I'm getting at, I know, you know as well as I do, you know better than I do what the numbers are. And they seem to be getting less and less in some of these, especially in a primary. I mean, my area up there, I dare say there's a fourth of the people vote in a primary. And if
Yeah.
we still got 3 people in there,
I
I mean,
understand.
that's a lot of overkill.
We have had, like Robbins Chapel, on a primary to end up with 0. Nobody voted. But we did come before, not you all, the board, several years ago, and asked for Robbins Chapel to be combined, the upper part to be combined with Keoki, and the lower part either go to St. Charles and Pennington, and it was voted down.
Well, but I just used that as an example. I'm actually, I won't keep it where it's at. I think those people deserve that, but the staffing is a whole different story is what I'm getting at. I mean, like it's Keoki, for instance. I mean, you have a certain amount of people that's gonna vote every year. And
we have
if there's 5 people sitting in there, and there's 75 people vote, that's not a whole lot of people to contend with in a day's time.
It's not, but it's needed for the verification purpose in itself and the
How do you
safety of
justify it's
everybody.
needed for 5 people for that?
On a big election?
I understand 3, I understand 3, but it's hard for me to just picture needing 5 if there's just
Now, in a November
75.
election, we need the 5 people.
in November. I'm
Right.
talking about in a primary.
Yeah, we're only asking for 3 this time, because it has to be represented Republican and Democrat.
Another thing is this, whenever it comes time, and you go out here and you try to get somebody to work, it's very difficult to get somebody that has the knowledge. And I'll take on anybody that wants to work with me, and we'll go through the procedure of what it takes. And I've met with people at 8 o'clock at night, try to get them to work. They'll tell you, I'll study about it. I'll study. Well, the week before, I'm doing more studying because I'm trying to get somebody on that book to work. Because somebody's gonna show up out that 75. Well, if you don't have them, I call them and say, are you gonna work for us? No, I've changed my mind. I think it's, the missus wants me to set your house tomorrow. Now, that's what we go through. It's hard to get somebody to work. And if you got somebody that needs a job on that day, just let me know. I'll certainly, try to help you. But they've got to be a person who knows what they're doing too. You just can't, we give training programs over here, and most of the time, the people show up. I would say 95% of the people show up. And then we've run into problems before. I've been on the electoral board for probably 12 years. And we run into problems to where, you know, we didn't have people, right? I mean, we really, you know, scratched to try to get people to work.
And like Robbins Chapel, we've not had the 3 people at Robbins Chapel even in a November election for several years.
One last question for me, and I'll shut up. Since you're retired in June, where do people apply for your job at? I've been asked that a few times. Word travels fast in Lee
I
County.
know, they'll apply with the electoral board.
So anybody that
If
calls-
we are required to advertise, because,
Are you required?
I've got that question into the Board of Elections, if the job needs to be, advertised. My colleagues that I work with, they know, but I want to make sure.
I think any job that ain't elected needs to be advertised. That's my opinion.
If it was a state job, you'd think it would
Nothing
have to
against
be.
you applying, but, I mean, that's just fair. Out of all fairness, I think it should be advertised regardless.
What about, are you going to retire in June or December? It's gonna be December, you know, where you said June,
Yeah.
it's gonna be December, is for retirement.
Mr. Kidwell, can I just say something too?
Sure.
It takes a lot of knowledge in that office. So not just some random Joe can come in and learn it, and with the 3 people extra that we're gonna have part-time, we're gonna have some struggles. But we're gonna embrace the change, and we're gonna do what we can.
I make a motion.
No, go ahead.
I make a motion to go ahead and fund this.
Got a motion and a second to fund $10,425, is that correct? Is that your motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
All in favor?
Through June of this year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, do this budget.
Yeah, just get through this,
Sure.
Cycle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Supplemental appropriation.
Mr. Chair, I didn't stick a letter with that. There was a couple of appropriations that need to be made to accept money for an insurance claim, and then another one for some salary. We just need to get approval to accept those funds, get them in the fund.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business, Sheriff's Department firearm purchase.
Yeah, and I apologize for keep bringing this back up. In the last meeting, the board approved to reallocate $10,000 from the ammunition fund for the purchase of new firearms with the red dot sights for the Sheriff's Department. The more research you do into this, because many of the agencies are doing this, I really wanted to get this done in the next fiscal year. But if we don't get these things ordered and get them out there, then there's going to be some pricing and availability issues. And I'm still not 100% sure that we're going to spend this money in this fiscal year, but there is, the way that the funding's working out for this, it's actually going to be a budget neutral item anyway. And I would like to get approval for that $34,425, just so that we can get these things through.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Proposed code changes.
Yeah, I just wanted to get these in front of you. These are 3 code changes. The committee that we put together recommended to add to the Lee County Code. If you wish, what I'd like to do is to schedule a public hearing for our next regular meeting to discuss this and maybe get them enacted. It's actually, that page behind it, it actually shows the current code, the way it's written, and then the proposed change. And it's really simple. Like the first one, really all we're doing is where it says they can remove an item, and it says from inside a container or whatever, we're just saying inside the fence at convenience centers. All of this is real minor changes that are necessary for some of the code that we're trying to get enforced.
So what do you need?
Motion for that, or just?
You can go ahead and do that. I don't think that's necessary just to hold the public hearing for that, but yeah, if you would give me a motion on that, I'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? New business. Board appointments. Building code appeal.
Make motion to table.
Second.
So motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Spearhead Trailblazer. Make a motion to table that one as well.
I'll say it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The Tourism Committee. Motion to table that one as well.
On that tourism committee, how is the attendance there? Anybody know?
We've not had a quorum in the last 3 meetings,
Is that because vacancies or people just not showing up?
but
Do we need to do like we did on a couple of committees a while back? Call them out on it, ring their bells if they're going to show up?
yeah, if you would like, I could give each of you who was on that committee from each district, and just send that out to you with the phone numbers.
And so you would send us the ones that's been delinquent and not showing up? Okay, that would be good.
This may be something we might advertise like we did before on some of these other things too, right? I think we put that out on, have we put this out on Facebook any time?
I have not. I mean, there's current board members appointed, so
Right.
there's not really, there's one vacancy now, but really that's where we are. So if, once contact is made with them, you know, see if we can serve them for interest, then at that point in time, if you wish to take an action, you know, because somebody's not coming, then that would create an opening so we could.
Body camera funding requirements, FY '26.
This is a program that runs through the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. We've done this for several years. The Code of Virginia requires that you have a person that is actually employed in that office for just the body camera footage review and anything that goes along with that. There is a flexibility to that code to where you can do different things to not have to have that extra employee in the office. And this is a program that we've done for the last, I know of at least 3 years, where he uses those funds kind of in another way, and it actually ends up saving the county money. It isn't going to save quite as much this year, as it's a $5,000 increase, but this is still doing this program with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is still a budget positive to what the alternative would be to the program that he wants to do.
What's the qualification for somebody if they get hired to do that without the paying the supplement? Say we want to hire somebody.
They're an attorney.
So, assistant Commonwealth attorney, pretty much. That's what he's saying here. Is
Yeah, all of,
It has to be an attorney. The code
Yeah.
requires it.
And the level salary for an assistant Commonwealth attorney is now $77,976.
that's a comp board.
Okay.
Is this something that needs to be voted on
Yes.
tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to get this in place.
So that's 54,000, what he's asking for in supplements, how much is an increase of that over last year? And
It's 5,000 more.
and why?
Some of it was some increased costs.
I mean, the supplement, the actual dollar amount going in people's pocket, is it the same as last year?
No.
It's,
I mean, it would be an increase to some people in their pockets, yes.
so we're voting to give a raise as well.
Yeah, if you want to look at it that way.
Yes, that's the dollar amount right there. Ask.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
Yeah, I'll,
You with what?
nay.
Motion passed. Kentucky, Virginia 421 project.
Yeah, just put this in there, the board mentioned in the last meeting, we've got the 421 project that's happening in Kentucky to improve the road coming from Harlan toward Pennington Gap. I did discuss this with VDOT, and they said there's really not any plans to do that at this time, but they are continuing to look at that with the partnership of Kentucky, what they were going to try to do to meet there. So it is on their radar, but there's nothing appropriated for that at this time. That's just a report, basically. I just wanted to get that in front of you.
Thomas Walker Pool.
Now, I ran an advertisement for the employees at the Thomas Walker Pool. In the past, the District 1 supervisor has been in charge of hiring that personnel for that. And of course, I need a motion to hire those people to be able to have help with the pool this year.
So nobody's been chosen.
They have not. I just need to get that out there. Once it is there, we'll have to have an approval. We're gonna have so many recess meetings in the next little bit. I just try to get as much information out there in front of you as possible, because we've got several applications.
You're asking for,
At this point, I don't need anything. This is more of information. It's just whenever they do get, when we do have those folks and we make a decision on who we potentially want to be there, then we'll have to bring it in front of you.
could we trim the number of employees down?
That is, honestly, in the past, that has been up to the District 1 supervisor, so that is exactly what you want it to be.
So you don't need no action on that?
Not today, no.
MELC Emergency Fuel Fund.
There's a flyer in your packet for the MEOC's Emergency Fuel Fund Walkathon sponsorship. Historically, the board has donated, sponsored this event at the rate of $5,000. And if you want to continue that, I will need approval to do so. That fuel fund is an extremely important thing.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? EMS mini grant.
Yeah, I received a request from the Stigwell Fire Department back a couple of months ago to apply for a mini grant on behalf of the fire department for the Virginia Fire Program. They did award us a grant of $12,069.60, and I needed an approval to accept that grant.
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Reassessment.
Yeah, this is an invoice I've got. The fieldwork's complete. They're ready to mail out the notices. Commissioner's here. He still hasn't got with me a date on what we're going to do about seating of EOE as far as the dates yet. But I do have an invoice there for $92,500 that is due for that work that is completed.
Are y'all all happy with you, Chris? Everything, y'all happy with everything so far? Has it been finished to your?
They have done enough to pay them that money that's on that invoice.
What say you, Chris?
Well, they've been tasked with the job and they've completed it.
Which they were hired when? What year, do you remember, Dee?
It's just this past year, I guess it was. They just started it.
I think they were put under contract the first meeting that I attended, if I'm not mistaken, in 24, January 24. Might have been a little earlier than that, because I come to a few before
I know
that.
we talked about
Yeah,
it
it
before.
was, we didn't, I don't think we voted, did we? We didn't vote to hire those people.
And it might have been a month or two before that.
It was previous, it was previous board, we didn't have nothing to do with
That's what I
that.
thought. So, give us a rundown of the reassessment, what it looks like, please. Before people gets it in the mail, because obviously they know it's coming, they already found out they know.
I would defer that to the commissioner if you would like, or I can speak on it. You probably would have better information than me, but, I mean, we've talked about it a lot.
Sure, but we need to know, and the people need to know, so.
I didn't know if he would like to do that or not, I don't wanna.
I mean, the information's not been certified and turned over to me, because I'm
Yeah.
not actually involved in that process. They're hired by the board as an outside agency, and then it is turned over to us to maintain. We don't create that baby, we rock it for 6 years in between. So I can't really speak to it because that information's not been turned over to me.
Yeah, there are some preliminary numbers that have been ran, and it's, the property assessments will be an increase. The key to this is, you know, just because somebody's land value went up or their house value went up or whatever, that doesn't mean that the tax rate is gonna stay the same or whatever. There will be calculations that will be done to bring that to neutral. And then there'll be calculations done to, you know, see where we are in a budget and what has to be funded in a budget and those types of things. So, yeah, it might be a little premature to start spitting out real numbers because it's not certified at this point. But the key is I would about guarantee that any property owner is going to see an increase in the assessment. And the reason for that, a lot of it, and it's actually one thing that I learned when I first got here, was that is actually a judicial issue. It is required by the state code. When a board of equalization is set, the board of supervisors do not set those people. The commissioner's office don't set these people. That actually comes as a appointment from a judge. We do make a recommendation, but the judge is actually the one that does it. And but when the way public service money is allocated to the county and that sort of thing, it's based on a formula of what a piece of property is assessed for and what the actual value is based on a sale price. And with the value that we're at right now, we're at about 50%.
About 58.
Okay.
Yeah, 57.
So what that means is for public service money that you would get, instead of you getting the full dollar, you're getting 58 cents.
The public service is assessed annually. That's assessed by the State Corporation Commission. And each year, the sales ratio study that Robbie's speaking to, I have to calculate that what that does is compares sale price to property to what we have it assessed at. So essentially what he's saying is we have it assessed on average at 57-58% of what it's selling for right now. So your public service companies, they pay 57 cents on the dollar right now, whereas you or I pay dollar for dollar on their tax. So that's really a big part of the importance of a reassessment
is so your public service entities, railroads, telecommunications providers, all of these people, you know, your Pava Electric, Old Dominion, all these people, they're kind of not having to pay on the full value right now because they pay based on that ratio each year. So that's updated every year. So that's part of the importance of the reassessment. So they're kicking in more money, actually brings the people's tax obligation down from what they have to kick in.
I'm glad you brought that up because I got a question. If it's required by state code that we have a reassessment every 6 years, why haven't we had one in the last 9?
The last reassessment was thrown out by the Board of Supervisors, and then there's a mitigation process. And we are not within state code the way it is today. Okay? It's not one of those things that they throw you under the bus or, you know, take you off to jail or any of that sort of thing, but we're outside of what the Code of Virginia says we need to be. And actually, if you think about it, it would behoove any locality, knowing what has happened in the housing market since our last assessment, to get those things done as quickly as possible, because what's happening, since it has been 9 years since our last assessment and everybody knows what happened with the housing market, that is a big jump. What most everybody would not believe is it is better for a person and their tax dollars that they're having to pay for that assessed value to be as close to what it would actually sell for as humanly possible. And that is something that I think that we need to do a real good job of communicating to everybody. Just because your property is assessed at a value, that doesn't mean that you're paying the tax. The tax on that is based on the tax rate. But ideally, what would be the best thing for every taxpayer in the county would be for the assessment to come in at 100%, right?
So 6 years from this year, it has to happen again by code.
Yes.
The code is actually 4 years, but if your population is under, I think it's 40 or 50,000, you can opt to go to a 5 or 6. The code specifies 4 for a county.
It's been 9 for Lee County. How does that happen, and why don't we get spanked for it?
There was an assessment between and it got thrown out because they jacked our taxes out the roof. Remember, the year before last, or 2 years ago, they were sky high, and then the next year they went back down because they threw that assessment out.
Yeah, the thing is just because your property is assessed at a value, that doesn't mean that your taxes are going to, be blown up. Now, there's tax increases, every so often anyway. But as far as if you own a house and you're thinking, I don't want to pay no more tax than what they are, I guarantee you there's not a whole lot of waste in this budget. Okay, I can't find any waste in this budget. Trying to get the budget down, and again, this is my first time doing this. I got to kind of sit on the sidelines a little bit and watch it last year. This being my first time doing it, there is not a lot of waste in this budget. And I would be more than happy to show this budget to anybody and go over any number that they wanted to go over to see where this is. But for any taxpayer, if you want the biggest bang for your buck to ensure that you're not having to pay any more taxes than what you really should, would be for, if your house is worth $100,000, for that tax assessment to be $100,000.
And not be over.
Not be over.
Right.
Yeah. I was one of the biggest proponents of I didn't like the last assessment myself. Sat right back over here about where Mr. Dean's at for a meeting. What I didn't like about it, the assessment is there to make the tax fair for everybody. My biggest problem with the last assessment was land values didn't change. If you had a piece of property and you had a house on it or a septic system or whatever, and it was improved property, then it was worth a whole lot more money than just an acre sitting here. And I didn't feel like that was fair. The whole thing, and even all of the terminology that comes into this tax, it is equalization, fair assessment, all of that. The deal is what I pay in taxes, or anybody in this room, that whatever it is, that pot be shared equally. And that's really the goal of the assessment itself, is to make sure that everybody is taxed fairly. That way you're not paying more tax than I am relative, to what the properties are. Does that, you know what I'm saying? If I've got a house that's 100,000, yours is 100,000, we should pay the same tax, right? I mean, that's just how it is. But if I'm sitting here and I've got a house in that old assessment, the one that was thrown out, if I had a house that was $100,000 and had 50 acres sitting next to it, that 50 acres value didn't change. You see what I'm saying? And,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and that's not fair. And
So
I
we should
think
be
it was
real
fair.
close to actual value.
Yes, the closer to actual value it is. Now, that being said, you're liable to see, let's say that I could use me for an example. I bought a house that was $200,000. That's what I paid for it. COVID hit, got a blind phone call from a guy in Connecticut that offered me twice what that house was worth, or what I paid for it. I could sell that house now for almost twice what I paid for it.
I mean, if you bought 10 years ago, you can double your money easy
Easy.
now.
Yeah, the problem you've got is you can't replace it because the value of everything else gone up too. So you're not gaining anything other than a capital gain at that point. So it's kind of that. But if you had, if you've got a piece of property and it's actually worth, what you think it would sell for, and that's what it's assessed for, and that's what you think, that's a fair assessment. Now, at that point in time, it's the job of the Board of Supervisors to set a tax rate that covers the budget. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that doesn't mean our tax rate right now is 74 cents a hundred. Well, I, don't know what that'll be, but, I don't think you're gonna see a 70% tax rate when this thing is done. So it's gonna be, something.
So since you brought that up, let's move that conversation into split billing, since that's the main topic right now.
Let's take care of this issue on
We're talking about reassessment right now, which
we're gonna pay this bill.
which one?
Yeah, I do need to get this tax payment bill.
Yeah, I make a motion to pay that.
Got a motion and a second to pay the bill for the Commonwealth Appraisal Group, $92,500.
Last payment, right?
Sure. That will not be the last name.
Oh, it won't?
No, it will not be the last name.
Oh.
We're still in fine with the budget that was set to do all that. It's all good. Everything's good.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You got something else on this?
Just reassessments, the timing of it, and split billing. Can you explain a little bit of that, just so to clear the air a little bit?
Yeah, this is a lot, so bear with me, and I'll try to do this in order. Well, let's do split billing. Split billing, what we did this year was we're gonna end up running what is called a hybrid tax on real estate. To ensure that all of the calculations that are done on the reassessment, that sort of thing, we contacted the Virginia Department of Taxation, and they allowed us to do an ordinance change, which we had a public hearing on last meeting, I think it was, and voted to do this hybrid year. So what's gonna happen, and actually before that, we voted to do the split billing back, I don't know, that was July or something last year. But because we had this split billing coming in, that bill is gonna be due in May the 31st. To ensure that all of the billing is done correctly, we enacted a ordinance that allowed us to create a short fiscal year that runs January the 1st through June the 30th in order for us to be able to use the current assessed rate, the current assessed value of property and the current rate. And so basically what's going to happen is you'll get a bill here in a couple of weeks that is half of the tax for the fiscal year, well, the calendar year of 25.
At last year's rate and assessment.
Yes, so basically if you've got your tax tickets from last year, you can basically take just real estate. This is not personal property. Just real estate, you could take that, divide it by 2, and you're going to get a bill for that amount. That way the tax for that year was, half of it was taken care of. But we have to get this new assessment in place. So what was gonna be, this was gonna be bill 1, and then the October bill was gonna be bill 2. We did a short year, so then come October, you will get another bill that will be half of the new assessed value at the new assessed rate, and that will be bill 1, and then you'll get another one in the fiscal year 26, and that'll be due May 31st of 26. That will be the second half of that. Does that make sense?
Which is 58% roughly more.
That's not to be said. Your assessed value will hopefully be close to 100% of what your property value is, and then we will be having more hearings more public meetings on what the tax rate is going to be when we get real numbers that we can actually see what they're going to be.
When the values go up, then that means we at the current tax rate, we would be way overtaxed everyone. So that 74 cents is going to have to drop back to get things like he was saying neutral. What he was calling neutral is instead of 74 cents, it may be 54 cents or something like that. Get where we're at now.
Here's the thing to think about, which is kind of an elephant in the room. We're at 74 cents, all right? Wise County's at 69, and Scott County's at 77. That's just the two counties that have put us, okay? I've got some other data that I'd be more than happy to share with you. I just don't have it in front of me. I wasn't really prepared for that. But here's the thing, and this is what somebody didn't think about. You're looking at the tax rate, we're 5 cents higher than Wise County, right? But Wise County's operating off an assessment that they do themselves, and it updates, okay? And so their assessment is current, and they're running at about a 90% rate, all right? So if you had a piece of property in an adjoining county, they're at 90%. So let's say you had that house that's $100,000, all right? So then the assessed value is around $90,000. So you're paying 69 cents on $90,000.
Right.
Here, all right, you're at that 58%, right? So that $100,000, if that's a real figure, so the assessed value is around $58,000.
Right.
So you're paying 74 cents of $58,000. Who do you think's paying more?
Oh, yeah, you'd be paying more the other way. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you look at, I know everybody was really upset with that 74 cents last year, but if you look at it, and I've got a spreadsheet somewhere in this mess that I think I've got here handy that I just kind of did. Let me see if I can find that real quick. All right, if you look at the 69 cents for County A and 77 cents for County B and 74 for us, the tax rate at the 90% at 5 cents cheaper than us, okay? $621 on a $100,000 piece of property. And the other county at 77 cents, based on what I believe is their ratio, would be $654.50. Here, $370. That's the way it is right now. Okay? And to be quite honest with you, that's why we're in budget time. That's not anything anybody wants to hear, okay? But, you know, and I come from a little different background, you know, than a lot of folks, you know, because, you know, I was wholesaling a lot. But if you had, when it starts to get into really big numbers, if you looked at that value of being $200,000, you're looking at $1,242, $1,309, and our $740. Okay, so I know what Mr. Flannery is saying, you know, that there would probably be an adjustment to that, okay? But right now, the numbers show that the tax in Lee County is extremely cheaper than it is in adjoining counties.
And you're saying that's mostly due to a 9-year-old assessment?
That is it. That is all it's due to.
composite index for the school systems also go off of these assessments.
Yes.
They sure do.
Yeah, the one thing, we are really fortunate that our local match for the school system is at an extremely low rate. It's 17.5-ish, right?
8.18, I think.
Yeah, and so we are really fortunate in that aspect, just looking at, what we have. If you get somewhere like Loudoun County or someplace like that, their match rate's up in the 70-80%, right?
Yeah, there's some that's 80.
Yeah, so.
They max it at 80.
They're the wealthiest county in the country, I don't care if they can afford it.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. And so it's not anybody, I own property. And I own probably, maybe some more than my fair share of stuff here and there. And I look at these numbers and I'm thinking, oh goodness. But that's just the way it is. If my pieces of property, and I've got some property in Wise County, and it's tough. But that's what our neighbors are experiencing. And right now, to be honest with you, the county citizens have been fortunate to get by with what they had to pay the last little bit. And I would be willing, and I don't always answer my phone because I'm not in my office, but I would be tickled to death for why we'd rent the theater or the community center or anything. If somebody wanted to see these numbers, there is nothing to hide. They're as real as they get.
Looks like the last thing, EMS discussion with the invitation to Pennington Gap Town Council member.
They had a special call meeting tonight and was not able to.
I make a motion to go into closed session for under 2.2-3711A1, along with personnel, and 2.2-3711A6, investing in public funds.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?